Well, I've started off the job by just jacking up the front, putting a stand under the sump, taking the front wheels off, and seeing it was the right hand rear wheel that was leaking, I've actually popped that off, and you can see while looking at the drum, you can see all the oil and rubbish on the drum. Now the brakes, if we zoom in on that, look, it might not let us. I might have to shift the camera. But look, they're tacky and the brakes were working okay. The drum's in good order, but I'll come in close. It's time to replace the brake shoes. Yeah, they're just getting down a bit. I'll whiz over there and I'll give you a close-up. That's the top brake shoe, and you can see at the end of the shoe, here we've got about 4 or 5 millimetres of lining. Through the middle here we would have 1.5, something like that. So part of our resto, we may as well do the brakes. So we'll get you down there and we'll follow along, and yeah, I'll show you what we do to get the brakes off. Very easy. But follow along and I'll show you everything I know anyway. That shouldn't take long. Okay, we're going to pull these brake shoes off, and I'll show you how I do it. Now, I do have the proper tools for getting these little things off, but I'm presuming everyone doesn't have them. And to tell you the truth, I use those items very rarely. So it's not really worth the muck around you buying them, just for a 1 or 2 of type of job. So first, looks like our adjuster is nice and free. So you can either come up the back there and hold the spring away and turn it, but it's a little bit too tight for that by the looks. But sometimes I just try and come in through the edge here and just pop this out over the side. Just like that. There's still tension on this spring here and there's still tension up here. But with these little T washers, if you just grab them with your pliers, hold the back in, hold against yourself, and they come off. You can buy these separately if you need them, if they get all bent up, but you have a tiny, you see that? Yeah, a tiny T-head there, and then the washer has a slot that suits. So what you're doing, you're just compressing the spring so it allows you to turn that and lock that. Where are we here? Lock that at 90 degrees. So very basic. So we pop them off. Don't lose your parts. If you do, you've got to come and see me and buy some more. Pop that one out. And you can see the tension coming away now. So that would come off that one, but anyway, I'll stay with doing what we're doing on the pins. And they're just retaining pins, and they hold the brake shoe back against the centralising bolt, which is just up here. And you'll see that shortly, and that just holds the shoe fairly true, really. So we'll probably break these videos up into little short snippets for some of this stuff, and we'll just see what happens. So that spring there can come away without any effort really now. So both ends are the same, so the length here is the same, so it doesn't matter which way that goes. It was with the bottom hook out and the top hook in, so look, that's not a big deal. That just sits against your star adjuster. Now on this other end, I'll try and bring you around and look at the viewfinder while I'm talking to you. That's if I don't drop you all first. Right, so on this you have the two retaining springs and then this plate here. And this plate, yeah, you have it holds the shoes in place, but it also, where you have your main brake actuator, it stops it from moving too far. There is a spring and a washer on the back, but I think it all sort of works together. And I haven't given you a warning about using glasses doing this job, but it's certainly the way you should be going. I do have the proper pliers for this job, but you'd think I'd go and get them, wouldn't you? But anyway, I'm just trying to show the layman an easy way of doing things. So, okay, finally got the springs loose. They're just on a little hook. They hook into the shoe there. I'll take this bottom one off while we're putting everything into one pot. Well, the one pot's sitting on top of the brake drum. Now this plate here, this should just pop off. That's it, with all those scratches from me. And there's your brake shoes off. So you can see these marks here. That's where the grease and oil is, that scrapes off. So the rubbish sticks down the bottom there, your brake shoe doesn't get a full surface, and so you usually have terrible brakes, even though they were working on this tractor. But yeah, you can see through there, yeah, they're fatter here, really thin through there, and fatter here. So time they went. Alright, let's move on. Something I didn't explain was that these are fully floating. So no matter where your brake adjustment is or how it works, because when the brake turns, and I'll put the pedal on for you. So when the pressure pushes on this pedal, shoe, and pushes on this one, well, the pressure equalises. And so that movement there is okay. They are supposed to have a little bit of movement there. You can adjust the position of these slightly. There's a screw at the back, but look, I find I very rarely ever touch them. There's no need, so I'll leave them like that. This tractor, ever since I've owned it, it's always had a couple of short wheel studs. And I'm just looking here, and they might have had new studs put in one time and never brought right home. There was 3 short ones always. Yeah. So there, I just thought I actually thought I'd have to order new studs, but I never had the brake drum off because, yeah, nothing was leaking, the brakes were working, so first time I've looked in there, but yeah, you can see this little gap here. That's one that needs doing, needs pulling in, and then you can see this one here, it's pulled right up tight. So there's a job for the list, pull those fellas in. And you can see actually on the thread of this one where they've pulled a little bit because they haven't had the full nut. I normally do this with side cutters. But there we go, there's the pin. The split pin. Now we should be able to pop that out. And that'll free that up for when we take the brake backing plate off. Now, these little screws here, they're the ones that hold your brake shoes true. your brake shoe, you can see the little rub marks there, about where my thumb is, and that keeps the shoe running square to the brake drum. So you should not really have to play with them either. But anyway, we'll go through that when the time comes. But for the moment, we undo these 6 bolts around here. Now look, on a 35X or a later 35, they actually have 12 bolts around here, but the early gold ones like this only have 6. So we'll slide the axle out and we'll have a look at doing these axle seals. Well, I've undone the axle and I've undone all the screws here, and I'm starting to move the whole assembly out with the brake plate and all. I'm bringing the brake plate out with me today. But I've got a bit of a problem here, and what you have to look out for is these shims, and these shims, they control the end float of your axle. And when I undid the bolts, all these fell out, just little bits and pieces. So what I have to do now is, it had no real axle play in it. I felt that the axle adjustment was good. So these broken bits, I'm going to grab them, make a circle out of them again, measure them, and that'll tell me the thickness of shims I need. Now you can see I've still got a pack of good ones here. That's quite a pack of unbroken ones. Look at that one just crumbled in my fingers. So it looks like I've got a few shims to buy, but that's okay. I'll just bring that to your attention, and with this, I'll swing you around here. Now that's where that brake shaft went, and there's a bush in there, and I think there should be a little O-ring. You can stick your finger right in there, as far as you like. Don't spend too long. See? And that goes right into your transmission case, so that's why we've had a little leak there, and that's why the dirt's stuck around there. So we're going to have a look at putting a new bush in here. I should be able to do that from the outside, and we'll put a new bush and an O-ring, and we'll try and get on top of that leak. Right, that's the assembly on the ground, and look, a point of interest for me at least is you can see a worn patch that starts where my fingernail is and goes up to there, and that's the worn bush. And that's for using the brake. And then when we look down the bottom here, that's where that shim pack goes. So if we can't get all the shims back to where they were, we'll just go through the process of adjusting it properly. So at this stage, I'll put the camera back on the tripod, lock up the pivot, and this whole brake backing plate will now just lift off out of the way, and we have an axle seal that runs here, and then there's an external seal outside here. But I'm going to drop this collar off. I could just replace the inner seal. On a late TE20 and a FE35, I'll pivot you up and zoom you into the seal there. They have a seal in the housing there as well. So that seal in the housing keeps your transmission oil away from your bearing here, and your bearing here in this instance, and you can see the grease. This outer bearing gets a lot of grease in it, and then there's an external dust seal. So when you have the inner, the later tractors actually had a grease nipple there to give this bearing grease. Look, if you pack that up, there's a seal stopping it from getting out to the wheel. There's a seal over here stopping it from getting anywhere escaping. In mechanical terms, a tractor rear axle is a very slow moving item. So that grease will be right for life.